As you know from my previous video, I'm a big fan of Call of Duty, especially old Call of Duty. And when you think of the Black Ops series, you think of the big three. Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, and Black Ops 3. And my prime age, like when COD was in its prime, and I was old enough to understand how to play COD, that was Black Ops 2 multiplayer. So what we're going to be ranking today is just that, Black Ops 2 multiplayer maps tier list. I also pressed F11 this time, so you can't see my 50 tabs. Hopefully you like this a little bit more. But we're going to get right into it. So first, we have Aftermath. Now, Aftermath is an interesting one. It's one of those maps that really wasn't that bad. But I felt like when I loaded into it when I was younger, I was kind of like, oh man, this map. But looking back, it was actually quite a solid map, right? Like, let me yap for a second. A lot of these maps that we used to think were bad actually were still pretty solid. I think the Black Ops series, Treyarch CODs, are kind of like James Harden in a sense, you know? You have your World at War that was kind of like just off the draft Harden, and then you got Black Ops 1 just traded to the Rockets, and then BO2 is like prime Harden, and BO3 is like later in the Rockets Harden, and then Black Ops Cold War was kind of Nets Harden, and now this new COD is about to be, it's looking like Clippers Harden. But I think that comparison kind of shows that Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 1 was when it was peak. It was in its prime, right? So back then, these maps may have looked bad, but looking back with what we've had in recent years, we can kind of see in retrospect how good some of even the bad maps were, right? And I think Aftermath is one of those maps that I was kind of like, you know, I don't know how I feel about this, but now I really do like this map. I think it's solid, especially after it got remade in Black Ops 4. But in the grand scheme of things, I think C is a solid place for it. Now next up we have Cargo. Cargo is a little bit of a it's a bit of a divisive map, right? Some people really like it, some people really don't like it. It got remade a couple times. I personally do like it. I think to me, it's like a low B tier map for me. It's gonna be like low B, and I think that's appropriate. Now we have Carrier. Now Carrier, bro. Carrier was different. I remember being like 7 on the Xbox 360. I had it on Xbox 360 at my dad's house and PS3 at my mom's house. And I remember being on Xbox 360 and playing Search and Destroy on this map. I vividly remember this. And Search and Destroy back then would force game chat. I remember playing this map. I remember playing on the left side of the map, like over here in the picture. And I remember some like old dude with more testosterone than I even knew existed at the time, probably 37 years old, saying something, but his voice is really deep. I can't really understand him. And then I'm probably getting called slurs by someone the same age as me. And that was the beauty of BO2, and that was kind of the beauty of this map. I really love this map, and don't even get me started on the trick shots. Bro, the trick shots were insane on this map. And on top of that, it's just really fun. I really like the layout of this map, and I think it deserves an S tier. And now we have Cove. Now these DLC 4, DLC 3 maps, we're getting in that territory, and they're going to be a bit more forgettable. But I think Cove was decent. It was just a little big. It was a little too big. But it wasn't horrible. It's just not that memorable. For me, it's another C tier. I'm going to put it right below Aftermath. Now next up we have Detour. Detour is a really forgettable map, honestly. I forgot that this existed until I saw the picture, right? And there's going to be some of those. Detour, I remember it's like based off of a campaign mission, and it's on a single bridge, so it's kind of chaotic, and it's kind of a cool idea. I remember kind of liking it, but I don't remember it standing out to me too much, but I think I do like it. Did like it more than Aftermath. I'm going to put it high C. Now, I will like to say that I would prefer most of these maps over modern day maps, but I'm ranking this on a scale of just Black Ops 2. Because if we're ranking this on a scale of all Call of Duties, most of these are going to be B, A, or S. But that'll be boring. So we're ranking it on the scale of just Black Ops 2, right? So that's kind of how I'm going to be doing this list. Now, next up, we have Dig. And Dig is a really forgettable map, honestly. I saw this picture and it brought me back. I do remember playing this. I do. But honestly, I don't remember like really caring for it that much. For me, I didn't really remember liking it at all. I remember just kind of playing it on occasion. It came with the DLC. I mostly got the DLC for zombies, so I might as well play it. But I didn't really mess with it that much. You know, it was mid for me. I'm gonna put it in D. All right. Now coming up next, we have Downhill. Now Downhill's a cool map. I like the design of this map a lot. I think it was pretty cool. It felt like the same vibe as Summit, even though Summit gets remade in a different style of map in BO2, but it had that same style, the snow and like the ski lifts and stuff, sky lifts, whatever. But I thought this was a really solid map. It got remade in BO3, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it was just a overall pretty solid map. I think it just deserves like a nice B tier. I'm gonna put it. Actually, I might put it A. I actually did really enjoy this map, and I really liked it. I really liked its recreations in future games as well. And next we have Drone. Drone is a weird one. This is the map that I rarely ever played. For some reason, I remember playing a bot game in this map, and that's like it. But I do remember playing. I vaguely remember playing like actual multiplayer games, of course. I don't know why I remember a bot game, but I do for some reason. But anyway, I think this map is like decent, but it never really stood out to me that much. It was like kind of alright. I remember a bit of it, but it's not super memorable either. Like I recognized it, but I didn't remember it that well. And I think it's gonna go right below. It's gonna go right below Aftermath for me. Yeah, I think that's an appropriate place. I'd have it over Cove, under Aftermath. Now, for a little intermission, I would like to add that in some of my lists, I forget to go through and arrange the tiers themselves. Like in my last tier list, I think I don't remember the layout, but I had one map over another that I probably would have changed if I thought about it. So I'm going to try and be more attentive to that in this list. But anyways, back to the tier list. Now, next we have Encore. Encore is an interesting one. It got added later in the game, and it was kind of like, its design was kind of cool. It was unique, but it was all right to me. I didn't really rock with it that much, but honestly, I do like the environment. I think it has a cool vibe to it, being on like a concert stadium or whatever. And I think if you got control like the center of the map, it can be really fun. It's good for like something like Hardpoint for sure. It makes it interesting. And I think for me, it's going to be like a low B tier map, in my opinion. Now, we have a classic, Express. Express was a really fun map. It had a cool layout. It got recreated a couple times, I believe. And it was something that I noticed about this map especially, but also just all of BO2. A lot of the walls were easy to wallbang in these games. And it made for some really cool, like, quickscoping comps. And I think that was pretty cool, and I really like quickscoping on this map was really fun for me. I didn't do it a lot in the game's prime, but if I went back in later years, I would like to quickscope, and this would be one of my maps that I like to do it on. I really like Express, and I think if a map is recreated, then you know it's good in other games. If they run out of ideas and they pull from another game, they're gonna pull the greats. And I think Express is up there. Express for me is going to be another A tier. And this is I think a pretty like lukewarm take. I think most people would agree that this is a really good map. But yeah, that's how I feel about Express. Now next up we have Frost. And Frost to me is an extremely forgettable map. I hardly remember this map at all. And it's not really like bad per se, but it's extremely forgettable. And I think it's going to be like a low C for me. I don't remember disliking it at all, but I just don't remember it at all. And I played a lot of Black Ops 2, don't get me wrong. But this map is probably the one I remember the least out of all the ones on this list. I don't know, it was alright, but I think it just goes low C. I think that's an appropriate place. Sorry for any Frost fans out there if you exist. Now, next up we have Grind. Grind was a later DLC map, but it was a cool idea to be on a skate park, and it actually, like, normally when you have these goofy ideas for maps, they can be, like, kind of mid, because, like, they focus too much on making the map silly and not enough on gameplay design, but this map ended up being a perfect balance, and I actually really like the layout of this map. For me, this is another A tier. I'm not going to put it above Express, but I have it above Cargo, and I think it's going to be a low A, and I think that's a proper place for it. And now, next up, we have the BO2 map. When you think of Call of Duty Black Ops 2, what map do you think of? It's none other than Hijack. Hijack is the greatest design map in this game, in my opinion. It's an instant classic, timeless classic, recreated many times, right? It is just perfect. Why? Well, let's look at the design of the map first. Look at Nuketown, a fan favorite, right? 3-lane map, center section that combines all 3 lanes, and it has 2 buildings with 2 windows, open spawns, and an open center. What does Hijack have? 3 lanes, 2 buildings with windows, open back spawns, open center. Now, it has the little side section, the little underneath side section, right? Which is different. And in the center section compared to Nuketown is far more compressed and far more open. So it is different. It's the perfect blend of taking all the right things from other classic maps and creating a new environment with new things that are executed well. And mind you, there are some other good maps out there that have quite a similar design, but they don't do it like this. They don't do it like this, right? Hijack is a staple. It's perfect. It's perfect, right? This might be my favorite multiplayer map of the entire Black Ops series over Nuketown. Is that a hot take? Maybe. But there is nowhere you can put this other than the very top of S. And now next we have Hydro. I just realized this list is in alphabetical order. That's interesting. I might have some sort of mental deficiency that I'm just now realizing this, but anyway, we have Hydro next. Now Hydro, I remember this coming out the same patch as the Peacekeeper release, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong though. But Hydro was a solid map. It had a really long range sections of it that I didn't like that much, but I think it was good, and I didn't mind loading into a Hydro match. And for me, I'd rather get Grind, but I'd have it over Cargo. And I think it's gonna be the top of E tier, and it'll probably stay like that with these coming maps as well. And now next we have Magma. Magma was a cool design map. The idea to have it over like an active volcano is pretty sick, and it has like a cool design. The like middle lane was interesting, and you could like go in the lava or whatever. That was kind of funny, but I liked this map. I think it was pretty solid. I think for me, I put it B tier. I think it's kind of slept on. It's a map that not many people talk about, and that hasn't been like revamped before, to my knowledge. But I think it was actually a really solid map. It's just kind of a sleeper pick, I feel like. Alright, now, next up on the tier list, we have Meltdown. Meltdown it takes place in a nuclear reactor. It has a Homer Simpson Easter egg with the donuts and the hard hat. But, I mean, after all, it's kind of forgettable, right? It's kind of forgettable. And it's not a bad map by any means. I remember enjoying most of my games on this map, but it's just pretty forgettable. It's pretty middle of the line. And to me, nothing stands out negatively or positively about it, right? And I think for me, I'd rather play Aftermath, I'd rather play Detour, but I'd play it over these. And I feel like Meltdown is gonna go right here. It's a perfect middle of the line map. I mean, it's the middle of the middle tier in the middle of the list. Like, I feel like that's the perfect spot for it, right? Now, next we have Mirage. And the only good sandy Mirage map I've heard of comes from Counter-Strike. I remember this map. I remember feeling pretty neutral about it, but there's sometimes I just didn't really like getting it. It's like one of those maps that it's just kind of like there. You know, you get it and you're like, eh, alright. Like, that's how I used to feel about Aftermath, but I felt like after all the DLCs, that became this map. It's okay. It's alright. But I just felt like it never stood out to me, really. And I know I've said that about quite a few of these maps, but that's just because it was so long ago, right? But this map, really, I do remember this map more than the others, but I remember it because I remember being a little annoyed when I got it. Now, maybe if I gave it another chance, being older, I'd appreciate it more, but I don't really remember liking this map that much, and I think I'm gonna put it at the top of D tier. If you disagree, let me know. Maybe I'm misremembering this map, but I feel like this was a solid place for it. Now next, we have a classic. We have Nuketown 2025. Now, let me just paint you a picture, right? You're playing with your friends. It's a double XP weekend. You put on the Nuketown 24/7 playlist, right? And then as the night goes on, it's Friday night. You're getting the XP, you're leveling up. And then more people start joining the party or joining your lobby, depending on what console you were on, because there's no party on PS3. And then you get out of a game, and then a 7th person joins, and you're like, oh, what are we gonna do? And you're like, let's run customs, right? And you get like an 8th person, you run 4v4 customs or something, or maybe you're with less people. You're with like 4 people, and you run 2v2 customs, or even 1v1s, right? You play customs, you're playing Nuketown 2025. You're running all snipers, you're quickscoping. And it's gonna be on Nuketown. It's always on Nuketown. Every quickscope battle, I swear, every quickscope battle I played as a kid, every quickscope 1v1, 2v2, window wars, like Michael Myers, you played any of these modes, I felt like every time you played a custom with your friends, you started on Nuketown. Maybe the next game you play is going to be on a different map, but it's going to start on Nuketown 2025. Nuketown 2025 was like the linchpin of customs, right? It always starts here. Everything orbits Nuketown 2025 when you're playing customs. Every mode you'd play, every fun mode you'd play would be in this. Everything you'd play with your friends, every window war, every 1v1 is always in Nuketown 2025. I might have said Nuketown 2024. I'm a little struck by the year that it is. We're almost at the year that BO2 takes place in. That's just crazy to me. But I meant Nuketown 2025. Nuketown 2025 is just S2. It's above Carrier. It's below Hijack for me. I think Hijack gets above it, because I personally enjoy playing Hijack more in a full multiplayer setting. In a custom setting, I will pick Nuketown, but also Nuketown is less original, right? It's a revamp of a classic, which is fine, but the creativity in Hijack gets it the higher spot. But Nuketown 2025 deserves no other place than being in S tier. Now next, we have Overflow. And Overflow is a map that I do remember playing, and I do remember the mid lane. That was kind of cool. It was kind of fun. But it's not like, I don't remember it being like I was excited when I got this map. Like, everything in B tier and above, I was like, oh nice, we got this map. But I'm like alright with getting this map, and I think that's just another perfect C tier. To me, it goes right here. I think that's a good spot for it. I think I'd take Meltdown over it, but Overflow was alright. It was decent, and it had some cool factors, and it was a good, decent map design. Like, that's the thing. I'm putting a lot of these in C tier. That doesn't mean I don't like them. It means I didn't mind them back then. But looking back, if you gave me this map list instead of whatever, like, garbage they've been spewing out these past years, I'm taking all these maps, even the D tier ones. Like, maybe you can leave out Dig, but I really like these maps still. I'm just rating them on the scale of BO2, which has all classics. And now that we're speaking of classics, we're gonna look at Plaza. This was, to me, the free-for-all map. I Loved this map in free-for-all. It was perfect size for it. It had a cool layout. It had a cool vibe. There were certain spots you could go that were like good to stay at. This is the map I always wanted when I played the free-for-all mode. And if I played other modes, it was still good. I still liked it. And I really enjoyed this map. And I don't know, it doesn't get as much credit as some of these others that are going to wind up in S tier, right? But I think it still deserves S tier. And you may disagree, but I think this map is genuinely one of the best BO2 has to offer. I'm also going to change something real quick. I think I'm going to put Express above this, above Downhill. Now, next we're going to look at Pod. And Pod is a map that I do remember, and I don't really remember liking that much. Now, obviously, I haven't gone back and played these maps in a really long time, so this could be with a grain of salt. When I dislike a map, maybe I just sucked at it because I was a little stupid kid, right? But I really didn't like this map. To me, this map is like an E tier. I don't remember enjoying it that much. I didn't really like the atmosphere that much. It felt kind of bland. It felt like it had too little color in it. It was all like green, which is fine. But when you look at these other maps, the old Black Ops series notoriously was popping in saturation and color. When you think of BO2 and BO3 especially, it has so much like pop to it compared to like the Modern Warfare series, which is fine. It just sets a different tone, and this map feels like a Modern Warfare series map almost in the color scheme. So its atmosphere compared to these other maps in the scheme of in the range of Black Ops maps, it doesn't feel quite right in this array of maps. And also I think I'm gonna drop Dig down to E as well. I was not a huge fan of Dig either, but I'm gonna leave it like this. Now next up, when I talked about how there's some other ones in this list that would wind up in S tier, you had to expect what's coming next, and that is Raid. Often replicated, that's how you know it's great. We have Raid. Raid, as a kid, I didn't even know how good it was at first, and then on launch, I didn't really like it that much, which is weird. But then I started playing it more, and it really clicked. I really liked this map. I think it had a nice layout. Each side was like a decent layout. The fountain side made it so that the right side wasn't as long range as the left side, and then the middle part was pretty long, was like not long range, it was pretty short range, but there was that little long angle, right? It was good for sniping. It was just a good balanced approach to a map. I think it's the most balanced map ever in terms of ranges and just all the factors that make a good map. It's perfect balance of these aspects, right? And I think for me, it's gonna go right here above Carrier. Ooh, that's close actually. I do like Carrier a lot, but I think this is the appropriate place for Raid. And I think it's been replicated in so many games that it shows really how great it is. And every time it gets added to a new Call of Duty, people get excited because it's just such a good map. It's a classic. It's a classic, and it deserves S tier. That's that. Now, next up we have Rush. Rush is certainly a map of all time. It's that makes me sound like I don't like it. Not really. I do like this map. I think it's kind of funny. It's like this like paintball range or whatever. But it is actually designed pretty well. There were some parts I didn't like about it, but for the most part I did like it. And I think the close quarters aspect was pretty nice about it. In a lot of parts of the map, it was good. It was chaotic, and I like smaller maps. I like chaotic maps. I like chaos in these COD games. I like to, I'd prefer a 100 kill, 100 death kind of game than like a 30 and 15 kind of game. You know what I mean? Like, it's not all about KD for me. I want action, and this map gave you action, and it had some flaws, but it did give you some action. I'm gonna put it low B. I think low B is a appropriate spot for it. And next up we have another one of the greats, Slums. Slums is, man, we're getting into the good ones. Actually. I'm looking at this list right now, we're gonna start filling up these top tiers. Slums is a really good map, and this might be a hot take, but I feel like it's not quite S though. And some people might think it's S, it's a valid approach. I think it's top of A. I just think there were certain parts of the certain smaller buildings on the side and stuff that were really easy to camp in, and that kind of lost a bit of the flow for me, which is what makes me drop it down to A tier a bit. But I do really like slums, and I think it was oftentimes made in newer CODs, and that's how you know a map's great. I've said it over and over, but look at how many of these maps have been remade in newer CODs. Hijacked, Nuketown, which this isn't the original Nuketown, I know, but Hijacked, Nuketown, Raid, Slums, Express, like, among others I'm sure that I'm just forgetting because I haven't played the newer CODs as much. I know Aftermath. Like, these maps are so great that they're being remade in several games, and that's how you know a map is good, but Slums is especially good. I loved this map, especially on Domination, for sure. I liked its layout for Domination. It was really fun, and you could get some nice spawn traps if you were good at it, which I wasn't that good as a kid, but, you know. And don't even get me started on Demolition, bro. You could get some crazy spawn traps with Demolition, but that's on all maps. But I digress. This map is really, really good. Top of A tier, but I think it's just not quite reaching that S tier because of some of the side lanes being a bit too camper friendly. But next we have another top tier map in Standoff. Wow, Standoff is so fun. This is another one of those maps that I felt like I would quickscope on a lot. I'd run ones with friends on a lot after Nuketown maybe. This map had a lot of good sight lines. You could get up in the buildings, right? But it also had the back section that was close quarters, and its layout is really unique compared to other maps. It doesn't follow a traditional layout, but it still slaps, right? It still goes so hard because it combines the long range and the short range in different sections of the map, but not in a traditional way. It has these curving lanes like the main street, and then you have the side sections that are closer range. It's just really well executed, and it's been recreated several times too. And it's just perfectly placed in S. It fits here like a puzzle piece, right? I think this is the right spot for it. I might put Carrier. No, I think Standoff does take the cake in its battle versus Carrier, but they are neck and neck for me. Now, Takeoff. Takeoff is a very forgettable map, I'm not gonna lie, but I do remember it when I see the picture. I, for some reason, vividly remember sitting in the back on like one of these platforms, in Spawn with a rocket launcher just shooting down score streaks because I was getting rolled that game. Like, my team was getting rolled and they had all kinds of score streaks. But I think this map's design was solid. It just wasn't anything insane to me. It could have been better, and I think for me, I just don't remember. It was like a map that I loaded in and I was kind of like, eh. It's how I felt about Mirage as well. So I think it's going to warrant a D tier. I don't even think this map is that bad. It's just compared to these other maps, I'd take all these others over it, right? And that's how most of these are going to be. Like, I'd even take Dig over some of the Modern Warfare 2019 maps, right? But that's just how it is. I think it belongs in D, and I think that's a fine spot for it. Turbine. Turbine is up there with Hijacked as the face of Black Ops 2. And I think for part of that reason is, like, I feel like a lot of the gameplay trailer content was on this map. All the reveals, a lot of the reveal content was on this map. But I remember playing it. I remember playing it in Ground War, especially. I really liked this map. This map was really, really good. And I think it sometimes felt a little too big, and that's my only complaint about it, but it was still timeless. Turbine is a classic. I feel like people know that. It's a pretty well-known classic, right? It's not something like Plaza, which is a bit of a sleeper in my opinion. But it is still an S tier, but I personally have it low S tier. I do like these other maps more, but it's still a really, really good map. And now we have Uplink. Uplink is a recreation of Summit in a different kind of style. You notice when they recreated these maps from Black Ops 1, they did it in a much different style, which I think is a good way to keep the map feeling the same as the original while making it still feel fresh to the player. They did it well with Studio. I think they did it best with Studio. They did it alright with Nuketown 2025, but it's still quite similar. Uplink is a much different vibe to Summit, like visually, but it's still like the layout is similar or whatever. But I don't remember liking it as much as Summit. I don't know why. But something about the flow just wasn't there as much for me. But also, I also felt that I didn't play this map that much. I felt like for some reason, I just didn't queue into this map very often, or maybe we didn't vote for it back when map voting was at its peak, right? But it was an alright map. I think for me, it's gonna get like low B. I'd still play it over these, but something about it just didn't hit as hard as Summit did. But next we have Vertigo. Now, I actually really liked Vertigo. I think this map was kind of cool, and it's another sleeper in my opinion. It was a cool design map. It was on top of a skyscraper, you know? And I don't really have a lot to say here. I don't know why. My mind's kind of just blanking at talking about this map. But not in a bad way. I just remember playing it and liking it. And I don't remember much more. And that's fine. And my brain is telling me A tier, right? That's telling me right here between downhill and grind. And I think that's a good spot for it. And last we have Yemen. Yemen was a launch map, like many of these greats. And I feel like the launch maps were the best in BO2 out of maybe any launch map pool in all of Call of Duty history, perhaps. But I think Yemen deserves a low S or high A place. To me, I did really like Yemen, but I can't justify putting it over Slums, and I can't justify Slums going over any of these in S. I think it's perfect in a high A spot. And I really liked Yemen. I think all the launch maps in this game were incredible. I think Black Ops 2 as a game was incredible. I probably have the most nostalgia around this game, perhaps of any Call of Duty ever. It's up there with BO3 nostalgia and BO1 nostalgia. But I remember when this game came out and all of these launch maps were such hits. And that's why you'll see most of this list. I mean, none of them wound up in F. Like, I still, even though I don't really like these maps, I still don't think they deserve an F because they were still alright, right? Like, it could be worse on all these maps. There's not any that are total garbage. Most of them are great. My S tier is pretty packed for compared to some of these other tiers. I mean, you know the game is good when it's got more S tier maps than B tier maps. That's insane, right? But let me know what you thought about this list. Let me know if you agree, disagree, yada yada. And I might try posting some more COD content. That last video popped a little bit. So we'll just see how this video does. We'll see. Just let me know in the comments, like the video if you want some more COD content. It'll probably be tier lists, but until the new COD comes out at least. But yeah, just let me know. And yeah, I'll see y'all later with another list probably. Peace.